announcement that the budget made was about central bank digital currencies. Now, just to kind of put it simply, central bank digital currency is a digital version of the fiat currency. So for India, it will be a digital version of the Indian rupee. And with this announcement, India joins a host of other countries like UK, USA, EU, China, who are in the process of developing their respective central bank digital currencies.
Shehnaz, so I noticed in the finance bill under the miscellaneous provisions, while talking about amendments to FEMA, central bank digital currencies were included within the ambit of banknotes. Now, I'd like to understand what that means and what this central bank digital currency or CBDC will look like.
I think that depends on what kind of CBDC India is looking at. For instance, globally, when you look at it, central bank digital currency can be a retail central bank digital currency or a wholesale central bank digital currency. So a retail central bank digital currency, as the name suggests, would be available for retail users, for people like you and me. But a wholesale central bank digital currency is essentially used for interbank payments, will be used for settling payments between financial institutions. Now, I mean, if you think about what a retail CBDC perhaps looks like, it will perhaps look like how you hold funds in an e-wallet. I mean, that's perhaps the most simplistic way of explaining how a CBDC looks like. And that is also the sort of model which countries like Bahamas, which has recently launched its CBDC, sort of their CBDC also looks like that. China is also thinking around a central bank digital currency built around a wallet. So I think that's how I would look at central bank digital currency. And in terms of the definition and all, I think what the finance bill and all tries to sort of do is that it tries to sort of ensure that the definition of banknotes includes both physical as well as digital version of the Indian rupee. I think so. It's just a sort of a facilitative framework, nothing more than that.
This was really helpful, Shehnaz, but this makes me question, why do we need CBDC in the first place? Where I'm coming from is that these days everybody has access, or most people have access to UPIs. So then why would we need a separate digital currency?
Sure. I think this is a very important question because the policy motivation behind the CBDC will essentially determine a lot of questions, like how the CBDC should operate, what should be its design features. Like when I said, there are two retail CBDCs as well as wholesale CBDCs. So first we need to answer this important question which Aashima sort of raised, is that why do we need a CBDC? And then, this design question comes in. Now, I think from, Vidhi had also released a report in 2020, which essentially looked at various policy motivations that have, sort of encouraged countries to develop their CBDCs. And we had also studied these motivations in the context of India. So to generally understand from an Indian perspective, I would say that perhaps a CBDC would provide an alternative payment option to users. Like, so obviously you have a UPI, but today the digital payments market obviously is there is a concentration risk because it seems to be concentrated in a couple of players. So, by way of a CBDC, we are creating this new payments infrastructure for the purposes of facilitating payments. So it sort of provides you access to a risk-free, because the central bank is it's a liability of the central bank. So I think that's one, creating more efficiencies in the payment system is something that we would look at it. The second is that I think, as with the adoption of digital payments, what is happening is that cash usage has started to decline. So, how does the central bank ensure that people like you and me or retail users have access to central bank money? So, a digital version of of Indian rupee would sort of ensure that people always have access to central bank money. So I think these are some broad areas, but obviously for other countries, payments efficiency, competition, innovation, financial inclusion, there are various motivations that drive CBDC research.
Understood. This was super helpful, but given that there's so many advantages of it, do we also foresee any risks when it comes to CBDC?
Yes, definitely, because I mean, obviously, CBDC is going to be a huge change, and the way
Right.
I think it will impact the financial and monetary system needs to be sort of assessed. One of the most, I think, common concerns that central banks typically flag out is its impact on the banking sector. So, when you have access to central bank money, how will it impact bank deposits? There may be, users or depositors may want to sort of withdraw that deposit and sort of invest in CBDC funds or whole CBDC funds. So in case they withdraw those deposits, there will be a contraction in the balance sheet of banks, which perhaps will constrain their ability for credit creation. So I think it's a sort of the disintermediation of the banking sector is sort of a concern. Then of course, how it impacts the payments ecosystem, how it operates within existing payments ecosystem, whether it is interoperable with existing payment solutions or not. If not, perhaps it might be an issue, because people may be more geared towards using perhaps a CBDC infrastructure as opposed to other payment solutions. Then the other thing which often comes up is that in case of a retail CBDC, you will have a central bank with huge amounts of access to huge amounts of personal data. So questions about security, data protection, I think these are important issues that sort of comes up in this CBDC development, I think, journey. So I think there are sets of opportunities. There are also, like any technological innovation, it comes with a set of its own risks. But I think at the end of the day, the way most countries are looking at it is to essentially ensure that there are proofs of concepts, there are pilots that are sort of undertaken, and then there are stakeholder consultations to understand the cost benefit analysis, to understand the cost benefit implications of introducing a CBDC. And I think that's perhaps the way India should also look at CBDC issuance.